very happy to be with you for a session on the future of purchasing. And the idea is not just to talk about trends, but it's also about looking into how we can make better use of trends in our own work. So we've got people from many places, quite a number of people from different places across Europe, from Sweden, from Romania, from Italy, from France, from Switzerland. But we also have people coming from joining from Argentina and Brazil. And this morning we had a lot of people from India and China. So it's been it's been a whole over the world type of day, looking at some of the trends. So that's great. It's great to have all of you around. In terms of having an enjoyable experience online, if you look at your screen, what you'll find out is on the top right, you've got a little cross. So at some point, if you find that the screen is a bit small, or you'd like to have a bit more visibility, then you can click on this one. And oh yes, someone saying that there's also people from Costa Rica. Welcome. We've got also on the bottom left, you've got the chat. So one person has already found it and passed some message. So that's great. Anytime, just send questions. I'm here together with Silmara Codeville, who's supporting the overall process, and she'll be sharing some of the questions with me at different stages into the session. Just a few words. EIPM. We're totally focused on delivering education related to purchasing and supply management. We've got a global footprint with main campuses being in Europe, next to Geneva, and another one in Shanghai. But also we have branches, 7 all around the world, including Brazil, Mexico, including India and the Gulf as well. So really a truly global organization, offering different types of program, executive MBA, certification, training modules, but also a lot of in-company programs. So academies where we train wide number of people within the organization. Every year, 4,000 people are attending our sessions, and we do that for 25 years. So it's kind of nice. A nice age, 25, no? What I'd like to, make sure out of this session is that you would get 4 specific takeaways. I guess the first one is about challenging our blinders. We come to work every day and we're focusing on the immediate things we've got to do. But from time to time, it's really nice to stop, go down in terms of speed, looking at the broader world and reflecting on what could be changing in our environment into the future. And another element I would like to is to spend a bit of time in terms of discussing, how you could be using some of these trends on a more regular basis, either for planning or on a day-to-day type of basis. So we'll have a few words about why trends are important, how to use trends, where you can find trends. I'll give you, all my tips in terms of, finding the trends you need in order to be able to, do your own planning. And then, we'll be sharing some trends related to the future of purchasing. So why trends are important? My granddad was working in purchasing supply management for a lipstick factory about 50 years ago, and he was making sure that the factory was supported with supported with the raw materials you need for the lipstick and the metal sheet you need to do the body of the lipstick. And not long ago, I was thinking of him because I was at the Geneva airport and I saw the machine you see on the bottom left. This is the IOMA Sphere 2. So basically you go there, you put your head into the machine and someone's coming doing, some diagnostics. It tells you a lot about the state of your skin and that goes into the web. It's accessible afterward on internet. But the important thing is right on the spot. You know, they design and manufacture the perfect cream for your skin. Isn't it fantastic? Huh? So, you know, we are really seeing the world changing these days with personalization, the Internet of Things, and many innovation. And, you know, moving from supplying the raw materials to, you know, finding access to these software, to these machines and all that. I mean, that's a hell of a change in terms of a, you know, job within an industry. And, you know, what's essential is to be able to anticipate and change before you have to, change before you're forced, because, well, you know, your whole business model, your whole ways of doing things is, you know, you can't hold on to it. At some point, we need to, you know, go along with the transformation that we see in the economic environment. Typically, when we do some planning in companies, we can adopt two different perspectives. And the first one is one that really favors getting focused, and that's the meaning of this picture. It's inside out type of perspective. It's rather short term, planning for next year, planning for the next quarters. It's really looking at how can we, you know, improve our processes, how can we improve our practices. It's about, you know, what is it that we could do better, to what extent we can do better. It's about predicting performance for the next round. Okay. But there's another way, and the other way is really to start from looking outside and what's coming our way. It's a rather long-term perspective. It's really thinking in terms of, hey, can I find some opportunities around? Can I find some threats? And this is not so much about the focus, but it's about favoring adaptability. You know, being able to react to changes in the environment in a very Darwinian way. In you know, if I can use that that image, it is about being adaptable to the changes in the broader world. Hey, let's do a survey. So, you know, we need to get a bit interactive. So I'll be sharing with you, you know, a number of questions, and then I'll be waiting to get your input into that. So your planning process, okay? How do you handle it? Do you just take last year's target and, you know, add a bit, take out a little bit, okay? Or do you really look at strengths, weaknesses? Do you take more input from the business partner in order to, you know, plan for the next year? Or do you really spend the time to look into a broader set of trends in order to inform some longer term strategy? Okay, you've got, don't forget to click send when you've put your information data. Hey, I see stuff progressing. I see some of the bars moving on. Oh yeah, more coming. Great. Fantastic. Keep coming, keep coming. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, still some more, still some more. Oh, one is definitely winning. One of the four is definitely winning. Good, good, good. Okay, looks like it's stabilizing. So I know some people are probably, you know, doing this on the phone or from the remote mobile phone. So I'll stop here and I will share the result with all of you. And the winner is, you know, gathering input from business partner to have the full understanding, 24%. So that's quite interesting. So, well, definitely you're probably here because, you know, you're the kind of person who wants to have this longer term perspective. But, you know, we still have some who are very much taking last year target or just purely looking at, you know, what can be done to improve things. Huh? So, but, you know, just interesting perspective. Okay. Let me move back to the presentation. Okay. Yeah, just a little quote. Peter Schwartz. Peter Schwartz scenario planning, and you know, he says looking into trends, building scenarios, this is not about predicting the exact future that's coming up. It's about challenging our mental models, challenging our way of thinking, you know, lifting some of the barriers that prevent us from being more creative and be more resourceful. So that's really what I'd like to, you know, go into a little bit today is you know, broadening the perspective and unleashing some creativity around. How to use trends? I'll share with you a few step process. The first, you know, thing you do is, you know, you need to gather some information, spot some of the trends, look at what's changing all around, maybe consider how likely it is to happen. Then put into context, you know, okay, things are changing. We can see that the demography in China is evolving. We can see that demography in, you know, the US and is also evolving. What does it mean for our value chains? What does it mean for our suppliers and the other players around us? Huh? So you contextualize it, and then, you know, you can start thinking in terms of, you know, what's the impact for my company? What does it mean for us? What does it mean for, you know, the purchasing activities? And from that, you know, maybe you decide to monitor some of the things, maybe you decide to explore, or maybe you decide to, you know, take some immediate actions in terms of, you know, adapting to this new world coming in front of you. So on the next slide, I've gone through some of these questions, but that's an interesting set, an interesting reference. We'll be sharing the presentation with all of you, so you know, you can get back to these ones if you want to use that on a regular basis or for specific events you organize. One other thing that you can do is, you know, and I've done that with some companies, wanted to bring, you know, some of the business partners together with the purchasing management team. I've done that also with some companies who brought something like 60, 70 purchasing managers from all around the world into one location. And we've spent a day, you know, looking at some of the trends. So basically, it's a four-step process, you know, opening the mind. So, you know, try to organize something where you ask people from marketing, from R&D, from this and there to, you know, share some of, you know, what might happen in the future, what is the strategy of the company. So people start to look at the broader picture. Very quickly, then you need to put people into workshops, and I will be, you know, offering you like a few hints on how to organize these. And then, you know, at the end, take actions, explore some aspects, monitor others, or, you know, take a few immediate action on things. In the pack you were able to download right at from the start, you'll be seeing this nice little board. Huh? So I think, you know, one of the thing I've learned over time is everything we do in terms of strategy should be fitting on one page. Huh? So your category strategy should be on one page. Your purchasing strategy, you should be able to put it and have it on one page. And here, in terms of trends, you know, I've got this one-page board that I'm using. Yeah. The first question is, what are the key trends that the business will need to address in the next 5 years, 10 years, really depending on the type of industry you're in. And then you need to see how this connects to your purchasing work. So how does this translate in terms of priorities for purchasing? So, you know, if you see rising currency volatility across the world, well, that means that in terms of purchasing, the priority is really about balancing risk. Huh? And then the third question is the skills. What skills do we need to tackle these priorities? And well, ability to integrate currency into a TCO analysis, for instance, that would be one skill. So, you know, simple, clear, it tells a story. By investing in, you know, TCO skills, I'll be able to help balance the risk for the company, so we are capable to adapt to the volatility that we're currently seeing in the currencies. Okay. Simple. Yes, there's a question. I'll be looking into it. So that's a question from Joanna. And this is product experience, technical capabilities important in the SBP portfolio? Not sure I know what SBP is. That's probably an acronym. Well, I don't know the exact answer I can offer you. Sourcing business partner. Oh yes. So yes, very. It's really important that for us we should be spending more time understanding. What's evolving in terms of technology, what's changing in terms of new things coming up, new trends on this site. So being able to interact with your business partner is also a great way to get access to some of the trend. And the technical dimension is typically one dimension that we should be looking at in terms of trends. I agree on this one. And I'll be, talking about some of the technology trends a bit later during the session. Okay, so what you'll find in the PowerPoint you were able to download at the start of the session, and if you've not been able to download it, or if you've just arrived a little bit late and came directly to the webinar, then you can just put your email address into the chat, and Silmara will be sending the slides immediately. So you'll get access to a PowerPoint slide where you can have the basics to build the board. So I've given you some basic structure to make it happen. And what you can do is by the end of the session, you can send me some of your board. This morning we had people, we've been sharing some slides about the end of globalization and how they would be changing their purchasing priorities and finding more localized type of solutions and what kind of skills you need for that. So I was very interesting kind of on-the-spot application of this little board. This is something that you can use as part of a session with a team, but this is also a board you can put in your office. You can have that on the wall, and as you have exchange with the business partner, as you look into a different source of information, as you explore a bit more the supply market you have, you can actually put some of the trends on the board and from time to time go and look into the purchasing priority. This could be a way of continuously scanning the environment. It's always nice to have some of those very visual things around us, so we can put some basic information and on an ongoing basis feed the stuff. A lot of customers have commoditized product instead of technologies. What's your opinion? Well, it's a never-ending game. Yeah, what happened is we've been cutting all the value chain into pieces. And before we were highly integrated. If you think of a company like IBM, IBM, they used to transform sand into algorithm from beginning to end. They were doing everything. They were doing all the elements for the semiconductor. They were doing the semiconductor. They were doing the computer. They were doing the software. They were doing the applications going around it. And everybody's been cutting their value chain into sub pieces. And along this value chain, every player, the buyer is trying to turn that into a commodity, standardized, trying to get it to be much more of a commodity. But now the world is also changing and new innovations are coming in and new challenges are coming in. So everybody is trying to regain differentiation, to come up with something that's helped them to escape what we describe as the commodity trap. So yes, a lot of it has been commoditized, but as the world is changing, companies are trying to bring further differentiation. Okay, hope I answered your question. So Yeah, I wanted to go a little bit further in terms of how can you find some trends. Okay, so of course you can do a number of interviews going to people from the different functions that you're working with. Of course, you can also sometime look at the supply market as some key suppliers or get access to brokers of information. But first, let's try to get a good understanding of how far we need to scan. Huh? Do we need to look at very broad trends, anything that's changing in the world on the very long term, or do we need to think at what's changing in my process in the next few months? So I think you need to find the right balance here. I would really encourage you to look at business trends, sometime at procurement trend, but if you just look at procurement talks and what's changing, what's evolving, you will be missing a lot of things that will be specific to your industry or to the supply market you work with. So, I would definitely encourage you to look in terms of business related trends. Yeah, question. How much can R&D business partnering influence trend development? Yeah, a good question. I think a great source of information in terms of R&D are roadmaps. Huh? So we use the word roadmap for everything these days, but at the origin, the idea was to say, hey, if we look at the next 5 years or 10 years, we need to find solution for this problem and that problem, and therefore we will be using this technology. We will be trying to go into this type of development. So having a picture of future technology you're planning to implement. So for maintenance activities, I'm going to start to use some 3D printing. I'm going to start to dematerialize the value chain. So you look at the future from an R&D point of view and you try to line up a number of potential solutions. And that's a great, source of trend. That's a great source of input in terms of, being able to start to look into the future. Two challenges with using these types of roadmap is that very often, they end up being so complicated, that it's a bit difficult to share them and use them to look into things. And the other aspect is people end up saying, they're so important that they're totally secret, and therefore it's impossible to, share them with the suppliers. And I think, that's an important point. Being able to look into the future together with the supplier, we should be able to have roadmaps on which we can have valuable conversation. So I'm going a bit further and looking at other dimensions, but I think that's an important one. And yes, R&D is a good source of this. And someone else has mentioned Blue Ocean. Blue Ocean is certainly, from a business point of view, a way to build a perspective in terms of where is it that you're trying to bring differentiation on a specific product or service dimension that we should be paying attention from a purchasing point of view. That's a good point too. Wow, very active group this afternoon. Fantastic. Yeah, I wanted to take you through some source of trends. The first one, in terms of mega trends and business related trends, you've got a lot of different source for that. Last week, there was the global trend document that was just released for 2035 by the National Intelligence Council. This is a para-public institution. It's not always, like a consulting bodies, but sometimes you have some governmental bodies or some private-public type of organization, like also the CITRA, which is coming from the Nordic countries. So these are kind of institutions who regularly, decide to put together some report and offer some perspective, but what might be happening in the next 25 years, for instance. You also have consulting like Ernst & Young, EY, the first one, Frost & Sullivan, Ipsos, and some others, who are providing on a regular basis some data about major trends that have an impact on the business. So those are good reads, good source of information. And then in terms of procurement trend, there's also quite a number of consulting. This week, I think there was a Deloitte survey that was just out. The Accenture one is produced on a regular basis as well. We produced also some report on the Value Creation Observatory. It's all available on our website. Interesting publication recently from the Fraunhofer Institute on the Industry 4.0, the impact on purchasing. I'll give you my ultimate trick. I'll give you the way to get access on internet to whatever you want. So basically, you open your preferred search engine, then you type the word trends. Okay, easy so far. And then you could be putting like something about your industry, energy, telecoms. Cosmetics, whatever you want, and then you type file type dot PDF, okay, and then when you press enter, you'll get a full access to a whole lot of PDF, and usually these are kind of a long document that provide you rather long perspective on the industry, or you can also put trends, procurement, trends, supply chain, things like that. So that's a really good trick, huh? Taking some question. Oh yes, IoT solution development. Hey, I'm not going to go into depth about this one because we will be having a special webinar on this one that will be in the what date? In April. We'll be sharing the data toward the end. So there was a mention that heavily impacted by public procurement regulation. Certainly true, especially of some dimension of it, and some application related to smart cities. Yeah, that's a real case. And someone saying trends, we cannot assume that what happened in the past will occur again. Yes, that's what I mentioned before when I said that looking at trends, building scenarios, this is something that is not going to give you a prediction of what's going to happen tomorrow. This is about looking at what might happen, different courses of transformation, and from that, challenging our mental models, challenging the way we look at the world. We can't do better than that. It is about opening the mindset. It's impossible to predict stuff. Short-term basis, we can use data, we can mix set of data and have a view on things and being able to predict some stuff. But if we want to look into 5 years, if we want to look into 10 years, then we've got much more radical uncertainty. Keynes, the economist, used to say, nobody can tell the price of steel within 10 years. I mean, you can always have some curves to help you, get a sense of this type of things. But that's not really the easy to do to predict that. So yeah. It's not about looking at the past that we know what happened. We just kind of challenge our way of thinking. So I've got people asking me to repeat, the point about the search engine. So if you open your classic search engine, I'll say the Google one, for instance, and if you're interested to look at the trends, hey, let's say that you're buying facility management. Okay, so you type the word trends in Google and then facility management. Okay, and then you type file type dot PDF. Okay, and then you enter, and then you'll start to see in the results of the search there'll be a lot of report. And a lot of them will be, very much interesting, because what's coming on the top are usually long description of trends that you might be interested in. Okay, if you work in the telecom industry, you type trends, telecommunications, trends, IoT, Internet of Things, file type, PDF, smart cities, smart manufacturing, whatever you want, and and suddenly you'll get some information. I mean, you can put any topic as well, supply chain or procurement or marketing. So that's a very simple trick to use your search engine and to get access to valuable documents. Some people yeah. So here, and that's you type trends. You type. I'm trying to show on the screen here, and file type PDF. Yeah, I can. This is this. You see, file type the PDF. Put that into Google, and this will be giving you only PDF slides, PDF files. Okay. Hope it's clear. If it's not, we can come back. I can, drop me a mail, and I'll try to show you in some ways. But I'd like to be, just to be moving on, because at the end of the day, we want to be starting to talk about what's going to drive change in purchasing. Yeah, what will be the key drivers that will force us to rethink the way we work within the purchasing environment. So I'll be talking about trade, the future of trade. I'll be talking about robots, localization of customers, localization of R&D, manufacturing. We'll be having a few discussions related to innovation, very short on IoT, digitalization, maybe a little bit about sustainability, millennials. I mean, we could be spending much more time and looking at many dimensions. I've just, tried to take some rather universal ones, that applies across all industries, and I think we should be paying attention to for the future. Okay. So, nice picture to announce that we're looking into the global trade. This is a container, which is something that was absolutely important in the development of globalization. So probably on a lot of people's mind, all that of discussion about protectionism in the US. Will we see major changes in terms of behavior from the US here? And everybody's talking about that, but to be honest, I think this is totally overplaying it. Any kind of change in terms of trade agreements, this will be taking a bit of time in terms of agreeing the change, making the change, and all this. One of the biggest, I shared with you a picture of the container. And that's really important because the container in itself, and after the whole waves of innovation in terms of air boats that became tankers that became bigger and bigger, and all the harbor that multiplied around the world, the overall infrastructure, and the whole internet that supported flows of information in terms of transportation. I mean, all that has had more impact in terms of opening free trade than all the trade agreement that existed over the past 30 years. So, the trend is pushed by, the evolution of the infrastructure as much as by political decision. So for me, that's a main point. Yes, things will likely change, and I'll give you my view on why. But at the same time, it's not going to be an overnight thing. And maybe in a special industry, special company located somewhere, there'll be much more immediate impact. But on a global scale, I think we shouldn't be too focused on this one. Okay. Yes, questions related to corporate social responsibility will be coming on this topic later, and this will be what I call sustainability. We'll be spending 5 minutes on this topic a bit later. I keep focusing on the trade. This is probably the slide that the if you want to open the screen a little bit, this will help you to see what's on it. The top one that you see here. Well, this is a very historical perspective, and that's why I really wanted to have that here. Is the evolution of the trade, world trade, as percentage of the gross domestic product across the world. So what's interesting here is, till the First World War, like 1914, the world was quite globalized. You had standard products that were everywhere in the world. You could, if you were a man, you could get your rifle, and that was a standard product you could get in many countries. And if you were a lady at that time, you would get your sewing machine, and the Singer sewing machine. So these products were available anywhere in the world at that period. I mean, in countries where people could afford for these products. So it was quite globalized. And then after with the war, things started to change, and countries started to be less open and focus on key industries and ensuring access to strategic resources. But then after Second World War, what we could see is a continuous growth in terms of the trade, very much supported by technology, transportation, infrastructure, the internet, and also some of the trade agreements that were signed across the world. And what we see is we had the economic downturn 2008, and since we are arriving at a sort of a plateau in terms of trade. So, and some people say it's going down. I mean, that's not that true. It really depends of how you look at it. And there's a number of things that are important to look at here. The first one is the price of raw materials. The raw materials have not been that expensive over the past years. It's going up in some areas. It's going up for some of them. But this is impacting the amount of trade, because it's not the volume, but it's the value of things, and that's overall that's going down. So if raw materials go down in terms of price, then you've got less of this curve showing up. The second one is, one of the biggest impact is the transformation of China, and there's been a much more focus on internal demand in China. And if you look country by country, this is China who's got the biggest impact in terms of this evolution of the trend. So it's one country perspective. Also, it's true that what we see at the bottom here is that trade agreements are going down. So if we look at political aspects, it's true here that we used to have like global trade agreements. Some of the WTO rounds of discussions and agreements, and we're moving much more to multilateral. So Europe and Canada this week, and these kind of things. So less of these very global ones, more lower scale. But we're not yet into a picture where we're really going just to go back on the traditional borders. I would say we would need it would take some further major economic downturn just to bring it down quickly, or it would take a massive event like a war on a big scale. So there will still be some evolution in terms of the footprint. There will be trends driving things toward regionalization or more localization. That's for sure. We've certainly reached a certain limit in terms of how much we are going to globalize everything. I think it's plateauing more than going down, unless there's a big shock coming in. What can you pay attention to in order to understand what's going to drive global trade? And if you're going to be in an industry that's going to more regionalize or keep globalizing, sustainability. Sustainability is one. There's more and more concern related to corporate social responsibility or environmental and social performance. And therefore, this will drive in some industry localization of activities, and typically looking local suppliers, shorter. So and this is going to be an impact in terms of trade, because you'll buy local for local. Currency fluctuation. We had a period 2 years ago where we've seen quite a lot of movement in terms of currencies. And if there is too much volatility on the currency side, what companies do, they also move to local for local, because the only way you can hedge, you can use some hedging techniques to a point, but at some point it's only natural hedging, just trying to operate more consistently in some currencies that will be helping in this case. Another driver that could lead us to more regionalization, localization could be some of the new technologies. We talk about additive manufacturing, 3D printing. This could be something that will drive us toward doing more of the local for local as well. And protectionism, political decision could be also pushing into that direction. The International Division of Labor. I've described a situation where we've been cutting the value chain into pieces. Remember, IBM used to do the whole thing, a full computer from beginning to end, from a piece of sand to the algorithm. And they've been cutting everything into pieces. Now we're reaching a limit. Everybody who's been studying this is saying that, okay, now when we've got 5, 6, stages into the value chain, it's not fragmenting anymore. In terms of risk management, in terms of transparency, visibility, it's impossible. And the economic gains are not here. The profit equation is not good enough to further cut it into further pieces. So that's an important element that, for me, explains at least the plateau effect in many situations. Transportation, you really need to, if you're looking at using suppliers in one area, the infrastructure in terms of customs, in terms of harbor, in terms of transportation are absolutely essential. The economic development, we might be seeing a lot of evolution on African countries, for instance, in the coming year, some of them. And this will be driving also some flows and some transfer of activities from one country to another. And also the whole thing is going to be impacted by productivity gains. If we, on a broader scale, manage to gain productivity, this will boost economic activities, and then we'll be able to further specialize and further globalize some of the activities. So it's an important one. Yes, I'm getting the question about the Trump effect. Well, I mean, there's two things, we're talking here about trends that have a long-term perspective and have aggregated measure. Okay, I'll give you an example. If you look at the electricity, when we started to have electricity available as a technology, it took 25 years because you could find it into the GDP, into the statistics, the economic statistics. The computer was only visible in economic data, 98 in the US and 2000 in Europe. So it takes a lot of time for some of the, some of the development, some of the changes, transformation to really have a global impact. So the Trump effect, and maybe other aspects in terms of, Brexit negotiations and more general, some protectionism, they could be leading on a longer term basis to some, further challenges in terms of the trade aspects. Short term, that could impact an industry. If somebody wants to have a go at automotive or another one, then that could have much short-term impact, and you could be facing some rather rapid challenge here within one company specifically. But on the broad scale, unless there's some really catastrophic event, we shouldn't be seeing some sudden drift, sudden change just from the Trump effect, I would say. Yeah, questions. Any recommendation in cost breakdown, calculation, templates, example, and manpower for the equation showing cost saving on the value chain over time? Well, we'll be looking at some key drivers in terms of cost of labor that you can put into your cost models, and this is about the availability of labor forces. Another one that you can, see as a business driver that's going to impact the cost driver will be the robotization. So I can't give you just here and take out like the way of putting that into a full TCO calculation, but yes, this is something that you can be looking at in terms of making some comparisons between different localization of supply chain. So, for instance, if you're looking at sourcing a product that's quite heavy in terms of labor, so you need a lot of people who are doing some basic job in order to manufacture, assemble typically this type of product, then you should be looking at graphs like the availability of labor force. Because if the country is running out of people that can go to work, then you'll be in trouble at some point. If the country is, currently still having a boom in terms of labor force, it means there'll be a lot of people available to do this type of things. So here you can see some of the connections on the TCO. So let me move to the next one. Big question is not just about where we locate manufacturing activities. It's also about where will the consumer be. We in purchasing, we're here to support business partners, and to support business partners, we realize that when there is market booming somewhere, then we need to put special effort in terms of building the right supply chain in order to make things happen for the countries where things are booming. So here you've got a graph that's I find extremely interesting. It's coming from the the last publication from the National Intelligence Council, Global Trade 2035. So it's showing something rather simple. It says, well, there's been losers and winners of the past 20 years, okay, in terms of economic globalization and development. So among the winners, we've got the people who are middle class in emerging countries. You've got China, India, but you also have countries like Indonesia, Turkey, where the middle class are growing. And also you've got another set of winners who are very rich people in like Europe, US, and places like this. So these are the people who've been, increasing their income, increasing their revenue. So, this sounds like very big issues, very broad perspective, but this is really changing, things. When suddenly in the telecom sector, you've got to, set up the full infrastructure for 5G in a country like India. Well, I tell you, you need to be ready to build the right supply chain for that, and to have the good suppliers that can help you on this. Also, if you're making luxury goods, if you're working on watches, on jewels, the world has totally changed. You've got, some of these rich people who are now changing their behavior. And they don't look at the catalog for 3 months and then pick the one they really want. They go in a shop. They said, oh, that one is looking great. This is the one I'm going to take. And therefore, the luxury brands have had to be able to, make sure that every single product will be available in every single shop at any time in order to not miss a sale. So when in the past, the relationship with the customer was totally different. And at the same time, the people who've been losing out over the past years have been the very poor, especially in sub-Saharan African countries, but also, some of the middle class and the lower class in more affluent countries like Europe and the US, and some people have been saying that the Trump effect is actually correlated to that. My grandfather was the only source of income in the family, and they were able to end up with 2 houses and quite a very good life. And today this is slightly different. Okay, there's a question. Yeah. So we've got Cassius saying that a negotiation. I'm clearly seeing that it's becoming more and more impersonal, less people interaction. That's Yeah, I mean, if you're going more into the direction of commoditization, and you're buying more and more some standard stuff, I mean, definitely you should be seeing this. But if we want to bring, if we want to bring added value to the business, if we want to leverage innovation coming from the Internet of Things, if we want to support the company with, coming up with differentiation, certainly we will be forced to build new forms of partnership with other players. And then, these types of negotiation, well, they won't be the same. We see later that we work more and more with startups, and we can't just be having impersonal negotiation with startups because their world is different. So we need to have the empathy. We need to be able to, engage them in being empathic with us, so we understand each other's situation. So, contrasted answer to your comment. Oh, great. I love this comment. Okay. So I mentioned looking into the work population. So what's really important is in order to understand where manufacturing can be, going into the future, is to look at the labor. Okay. So how many people are available to work within a country at a certain time? And if you take China, for instance, around 2013, we've started to see a decrease because of this, demographic stuff in China, the one-child policy. There was a point where there were more and more people available to go and take a manufacturing job, and suddenly, this starts to go down. And when this starts to go down, this means that the cost of labor is going to go up because you've got scarcity of the resource, basic economic laws. So therefore, the country is going to lose some of its advantage in terms of, offering some cost advantage product to the whole world. On some, especially the basic activities. Of course, you can move to different regions of China. You can find other strategies, but this is having a big impact. At the same time, if you look at a country like India, if you look at countries like Indonesia, like Turkey, like Mexico, the expectation is that the population, the working population, is going to continue to increase for the next years and for decades. So there will be a continuous flow of people that will be available in order to join the job market, and therefore this is going to impact the type of activities you will see from this country. It's going to impact the cost of labor. So that's an important one. Europe, we're going down. We're going down in terms of the amount of people available to go and pick jobs. But this is about labor, and the other dimension that's important to look at is capital investment. And one of the interesting aspects today is to look at robots. So it's an amazing market. If you want to be part of a fun industry, go into the industrial robot industry, because it's growing up 15% a year currently, and it's moving on and it's moving on, and we're expecting more of it into the future. So it's fast growing, more robots everywhere in the world. Everywhere, yes, but more specifically in Asia. Why Asia? Because these countries have been specializing into manufacturing, and now they're realizing in some of them that they've got, like China, that they've got less workforce available, so they're trying to switch, trying to replace factories like the Foxconn one, of people, where you had thousands of people around by factories of robots, in order to maintain some of the activity in these places. And then you see, Europe is heavily investing in terms of robot, and America as well, but less. So Germany is very strong on that. So that's an important set of data that you can look at into when you look into countries. Is this country making some investment into the future, into these types of technology? So this might be giving you the signal that there is, a long-term potential, especially if your product can be automatized. An important aspect is we talk a lot about China being number one in terms of robots, but the size of China is huge. And in fact, if you look at what we call the robot density, comparing the number of robots per employees who are working in the country, it's really high in terms of Korea, for instance, in terms of Japan, rather high in terms of Germany, where the population have aged already. But if you look at China, it's still tiny. So there's a lot of space for more robotization in China, and we talk a lot about it. But the gap is still huge compared to South Korea, Japan, or Germany in terms of density of robots. So another good lead, another good things to look at. So we looked at consumers, where consumers will be. They will be where you've got the middle class who are growing, who are spending more, we are shaping, what is it that we buy, and we'll need to be able to put the right supply chain over there. Where is it that we locate suppliers where, depending of labor costs, depending of some elements of global trades, we might be moving some of the activities from one country to another, building on some of the stuff we discussed. Another dimension is R&D. R&D is really something that's going through also for the past 20 years into a full globalization process. It's not to have access to cheap labor. It's really different. It's a lot of it is about developing for the local taste. Thinking about what's the ideal else piece of equipment for China when you're living in Geneva. Well, you can't really get a good sense of the needs. So you need to have capabilities on a local basis in order to do some of the development for the local markets. The other element is we've got sources of science, technology, patents everywhere in the world. If you see here, China is growing very fast in terms of, providing some, doing some R&D, and they're really big in terms of patents, and then research, also publications. That's really big. So it's important for companies to have R&D dispersed, located in different places, so they can absorb local knowledge. And we have to be close to these guys. We need to be able to, work closely with the different R&D sites in order to support them into the future development. So implication for the future of purchasing, I think over the past 20 years, we've done a lot in terms of being more spread all over the world, being able to connect the full web between where is it that we need to do things, sell things, where is it that we need to manufacture or produce things, and where is it that we need to conceive and develop some new things. I don't think the future is going to be massively different. I don't think this is going to be a revolution. I think, there'll be some slight adjustment. There'll be a bit more regionalization in many aspects. But I don't think this is really going to transform our ways of working. It's just more of the same. We'll keep looking for best cost countries. We'll be, looking for opportunities, and things will be moving. And when Africa will start to, quickly develop, we'll see some move over there. But to be honest, I'm not expecting some, drastic transformation from this spatial perspective, if you want, from this geographic perspective. It's going to be more of the same. It's going to be, and we've learned how to do it. When we move to a new country, we'll need to invest in understanding culture. We need to spend some time on that, but it's nothing really different. Hey, let's have a look into innovation now, because I think this is another big driver. We've covered everything related to trade, robots, and R&D science, things like that. It's very interesting, these days, every time we're talking about innovation, we tend to talk about confrontations. We talk about the old versus the new, the old industry versus the new industry. And this chart is simply showing, that Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon, they're getting into many other industries. They're getting into telecom, they're getting into health, they're getting into retail, energy. And people are showing the world as this confrontation between the old and the new. Other people are showing the world, that's a great source of information, CB Insight. They've been putting these pictures where you have an automotive, and all around here, what we see here, all this are startup. Startup, and what they try to say is, the car is being unbundled, and maybe tomorrow you'll just put all these startups together and you'll have the perfect mobility service. So here we're showing the battle between the small startup versus the big corporation. Again, this is a picture of confrontation. And sometimes there's another one which is the north versus the south. We do sophisticated product in some parts of the world. We do more practical, simple things in other parts of the world. Again, this is confrontational, and I think this is wrong. I think the whole point about innovation is not about confrontation. It's about building some new collaboration. It's about you know getting access to the new players that we've never been working with in the past and connecting them. If you're doing sports equipment, you need to be working with startups that are putting together some of the device that you can put on the skis, and thereafter you can see on the screen the speed or get instant information. You can't invent that in your walls. You need to build on collaboration. And if you're a company who's doing a startup, well, you won't be able to survive just by selling to other startups. You need to be able to partner, work with some of the big corporations. So it's all about bringing it together. It's not just about seeing the world as, a mass of confrontational issues. So more collaboration. And I think the purchasing, is really getting ready for that. This was a study we conducted 3 years ago, and we've been asking 100 companies where is it they will be investing in terms of innovation. Will they look for innovation in existing suppliers, or will they be looking at the supplier of the supplier, tier 2, tier 3? Will they be looking at startups, new players, or other partners, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and other types of scientific universities? And the answer was striking 3 years ago. People say, well, today we focus on existing supplier. We want to do less of that. We want to spend more in terms of looking at supplier of supplier or looking at startup. And this has been happening. The last conference in EIPM, we talked a lot about how to build relationship with startup, how to source from them, how to partner with them, because this is coming to the forefront, and that's an important trend to take into account for the future. Okay, innovation. Probably some of you are sourcing indirect type of stuff, services for marketing, services for the people in the company, and many other things like that. And they say, well, my contribution in terms of innovation might just be limited, because it's not about the product and the service. Well, not at all. It's not at all the case. There's a lot of opportunities all around. So what we've got in front of us is what we call the innovation piano. The innovation piano is a set of slides I've been using for many, many years that has been put together by a company called Dublin. And it's looking at different types of innovation. In yellow, you've got product-related innovation, product performance, services, and the ecosystem of product that you can offer, complementary products. But we can innovate in other dimensions. We can innovate in terms of brand, in terms of customer experience, or we can innovate by making changes to processes, or by creating some new business model, or working together with external players in a different way. When this Dublin company has been looking at a lot of companies and where they've been investing in terms of innovation, the answer was that everybody's focusing in terms of another product and another product and a new product and so on and so on. And in fact, when they've also been asking in terms of return on investment, hey, you've seen the picture? Well, it's all in the middle here. And if you look at return on investment, it's on the side. Well, it's very logical. If you do 100 innovation project on product, then the one that's number 100 is going to have a lower return on investment. This is the 100th ID you ended up having, and this is not the one that's bringing the most money. And therefore, maybe if you look at a business model type of innovation, customer experience, brand relating things, you can bring some innovation. And here it's typically, or the processes, it's typically something where purchasing, supply management, all around can have an impact. So I think this is quite an important picture, and I'm going to continue to use it because I think it's passing a message that we're all having a potential contribution to support the company and develop new stuff. Okay, and the big point is, the reason why you get out of the commodity question. Someone asked the question about commodities. You remember the iPod? 2 months after the iPod was out, you could get access to the ZenQ or the Philips MP3 player. But the iPod resisted. The iPod was never commoditized. Why? Because Apple has been, not just innovating in one area, but they've been innovating all along. And it's very difficult just to make a product obsolete. If you've got innovation in more dimension, it's more complex to copy. So that's a nice thing. Is if we all get forces together and we innovate, or we help the company innovate on multiple dimensions, then it becomes kind of a more difficult to copy these types of innovation. Yeah, let me get into a little bit on the Internet of Things and the digitalization. We'll have a special webinar I've mentioned on this. The key message here is the speed of change, and these types of innovation are coming by wave. So whenever we started to develop textile, water power, or where we looked at electricity, it took a certain amount of time, and the time it takes for this big technology to have an impact is getting smaller. I mentioned electricity took 25 years in order to have an impact on GDP. What we'll see is the digital networks, the IoT will have a much quicker impact in terms of industries in the coming year. Very important is the connection between the Internet of Things and the digitalization. What we have is we've got a multiplication of sensors, we've got a multiplication of actuators, machine-to-machine communication that's feeding the whole world with data, and that's giving new opportunities to digitalize our processes and to digitalize our business model. One thing that's important is when I'm talking about digitalization, a lot of people in procurement, we just talk about digitalizing our own process. Fine, that's great. If we can do better spend management, if we can do better contract management, if we can, have better understanding of forecasts in terms of needs, it's easier to access it. It's great. We'll be more efficient. We'll be able to, work more effectively. We'll be able to focus more on strategic aspects. But, the transformation we're talking here it's much broader. It's the role of purchasing in terms of helping the company having access to the new technology, the new integrators, the source of innovation that are going to support the development of the whole Internet of Things infrastructure, the digital infrastructure of your companies. Everybody's moving in some different direction, and it's really important to be able to accompany, and we have a role to play in purchasing. Oh yeah. Cassius is saying a lot of time people don't know what they want until you show it to them. That's a really important thing in terms of innovation. When you ask people how many computers we'll be using, and people say, well, just within 10 years, and well, on Earth there will be a need for 5 computers. Well, now we all have like a whole bunch of computers at our fingertips. So yes, well. At the end of the day, some of the innovation is pulled by the customer, and some of it is more, pushed by all the possibilities we can bring. Another one that I really like, and that relates to the Internet of Things from Steve Jobs, is one said, if you want to do a really good software, you should be ready to do your hardware. Okay? If you want to do a good software, you want to be ready to do your hardware. That's really a surprising one, but this is one of the major things with the Internet of Things. If you want to have an outstanding customer experience, if you want to have a fully functioning, smart city or smart factory, the challenge of integration is absolutely essential. It is about putting the whole thing together. And that's one is something essential. Questions from Juana, any guidelines on data protection, security, and IoT? Well, that's a big issue. I think, we tend to see the world in procurement as risk, okay? So, of course, we should be taking seriously the issue of data protection, of security, and things like that. But we should always also be looking at the bright side of things and looking also at opportunities. Huh? So, I've done some case studies on a company recently who's been working on a startup on social vending machine, and the startup was offering payment systems to the final customer. And of course, here you've got challenges in terms of having a startup between you and your customer, and acting as a mini bank for your customer. But sometimes you've got to answer the question, what's the business benefit? If I take that risk, what is it that I can get out of it? There's no innovation without risk. So it is about, finding the balance. One area where I find sometimes purchasing going a little bit wrong is sometimes the concerns in terms of intellectual property. I've seen some banks, for instance, starting to work with startup, and the startup was putting together the code for a new application for a specific group of people on a new service. It was taking them something like 2 or 3 months to develop the full code. It took more time for people to decide about, is there an issue in terms of intellectual property? So any competitor could have replicated the whole thing their own way, developed their own code for it. So we need to find the right balance between the risk aspects and the innovation aspect. But good point, and certainly something to monitor. Pay attention to your contract, because there's more and more. There's been I've seen a few games of companies trying to say that data going through their pipes is actually their property, and therefore they can make some use of it. And on the contrary, you've seen some companies claiming that they don't have any data on their equipment or capex or whatsoever. So pay attention, to the contract, because sometimes you've got some funny stuff that comes in, and that can be important. The big thing is, the value of data. What can you do out of the data? And that's what's going to drive, a lot of things. But we'll come back on that. There will be another webinar. If we're talking on another aspects, and if I spend a few minutes to talk about digitalization of procurement, I see 3 layers of things, 3 layers of development. And the way I describe it is to say, well, we've got problems and solutions. Okay. So the first thing is we've got old problems for which we've implemented some old solution. And digitalization can already help with this. And a lot of companies have already been doing quite a lot in this area. It is about process automation. It is about some of the little software robots that are taking data, macros that are taking data from one piece of software to another piece of software. This is about automating the workflows. Trying to create a more set of connected systems all across. The next level is slightly different. It's about the still trying to solve the existing problems. More accurate spend analysis, more accurate forecast, and more reliable contract management, for instance, and bringing some of the new solutions. Very often using technology that makes life easier, simplifying. So instead of spending a huge amount of time taking data from into an Excel and then redoing some analysis into Click or so whatsoever, what we'll see is more bots, natural language being used, analysis of unstructured data. So we'll have some little software that will go into all the information about your suppliers, and they'll come with like a cloud of words in terms of what is the company focusing on, and you'll be able to compare it with what is it that you focus on in your company to see that things are matching or not. You'll get much better access to information on the spend. You'll be asking questions, and this will be coming directly to you. Executive in your company will have access to an app, and they'll have the most recent information about the key suppliers, just in case they meet some executive from a key supplier. They'll have access to the existing data instantly. And of course, there will be other things, new problems for which we'll have to look for new solutions. That's where the artificial intelligence, deep learning, the combination of information from outside, from inside. We see a lot of these in terms of risk management already, trying to get external data, connecting it with internal data, audit reports, looking at information about natural disasters and political issues, and suddenly all this is coming together and sending you the message, hey, you should be paying attention to what's happening in this company, in this area. So that's where we'll see more into the future, connecting data from different sources, using this type of tools, solving new problems with new solutions. What's important is not just to look for who's the good vendor. And the big point is about creating an IoT roadmap, creating a digital roadmap. What's important is not to look at solutions first, but to look at problems. What are the problems that we want to be solving? The current problems we should be focusing on in the next 2 years, the future problems that we'd be preparing to solve afterwards. Map the benefit, try to understand if we're able to put this together, what will be the benefit out of it? Is it going to be easy to do? Is it going to be complex? And the whole thing is not just about, again, operating the software. This is about changing the culture. This is about, transferring activity between a shared services and to a category team, building new market intelligence team within the purchasing organization, having some agile team that can, go together with a business analyst and really support a local team at some point. So, it's really not just about the tools and the techniques and the technology. The whole organization is going to have to change the skills, the culture, the ways of working, and that's an important element that we'll be having to take into account. I see some people who agree with me. Nice, lovely. Sustainability. I wanted to say a few words because I think it's also an important thing. It's important. It's important, for us, and it's important for many people around the world. So we use some of the word corporate social responsibility, sustainability. This has been changing over time. So in the 80s, this was all about philanthropy. Okay, we want the local community to like us. Hey, let's give them a bit of money, invest in this and that. That's good. That's already something. But that wasn't enough. In the 90s, as we've started to further globalize and source from many different places, then suddenly, there were reports that we could be doing bad things, harming the world or harming local societies or local groups, because of the activity we had using paint in some factories and releasing the stuff out. So at that point, we had very much a focus in terms of risk. So it was corporate social responsibility. Responsibility is about risk. And then we had to do a lot of things in terms of setting up the code of conduct, setting up audits, being able to regularly do some checks on the supplier and managing some improvement action on that. 2000, I think that we've been looking a bit more into, putting into our functional requirements some of the economic, environmental, and social performance in an integrated way, trying to look at the best trade-off between these dimensions. I think the CO2 emissions and some of the forestry aspects have been, important example about that. But I think now we've been moving into a different, direction. People are more concerned about the environment, and all over the world, people are more concerned about the social well-being of population. and therefore, there's more opportunities to create value for the business at the same time as you create value for the local communities, and you help to, prevent harming the environment. So it is about, working with supplier. It is about collaborating with supplier to put up, some new solutions, innovating, and have this, broader positive effect. I've just published on LinkedIn a short article that connect to this slide, and really giving a number of input in terms of what can we do in this area. We could spend a lot of time on this, but I'll try to give you a few hints. On minimizing risk, I've already mentioned code of conducts. I've already mentioned the audits, and some improvement, some corrective action that you would be following up with suppliers. Another area, very much the case in some of the food industry, some of the cosmetic industry, for instance, where you need to work with local communities to have access to some product. This is collaboration with non-governmental organizations, some association that can help you to make your supply chain more socially and more environmentally friendly. Another trend is to look into not just your suppliers, but also the supplier of your supplier. And sometimes also the staff. That's an interesting one. Some companies have started to give to the staff of their supplier some SIM cards, and there is one number. And if there's a bad thing happening in the factory, then the people can have an immediate call and place an alert to the customer of their company. I also think that IoT is going to play a big role on that in terms of monitoring things. So today we do a lot of audits, but tomorrow we'll be able to to use telematics in case you've got some drivers who are behaving not so well in some places, and we'll be able to have some monitoring of factories in terms of their emission and things like this. So we'll have more risk management solution that will be IoT supported. I see a question. Yes, I think that was back to the digitalization and the. I got a question in terms of e-auctions. Well, I mean, I think every tool is useful, and you can be making good use of this type of tools, but you've got to use them for the right thing. But maybe I can give you a short story on how to create extreme value using some auctions. So this was a story of someone I've met and that started to work in a pharma company. And this pharma company, they needed to get access to people on which the medicines, the drugs would be tested. And the first time, he had to buy a cohort of people on which the drug would be tested. He used the e-auction, okay? And then he got the best ever price. Guess what? Nobody was happy in the company. Nobody cared about it. Okay, yeah, you did your purchasing job. Great, you've got the best price. Fine, okay, back to my job. So he said, what's happening here? I guess things get not exactly the way I wanted. I thought I would be a hero because, we've never been spending so little amount of money in order to get this test. And he started to discuss and really understood that the need of the people was different. What preventing them from sleeping at night was not exactly the cost here. What was really having a big impact in terms of performance for the business was the time. How quickly they would be able to run this type of tests. So he decided to do the auction again, but he set the price to a standard, and then he did the auction on the speed. Okay, so the suppliers were bidding in terms of how fast they could be delivering the test. So that's a very clever way of using e-auctions, and I support it because that creates value that helps to do better for the company. But of course, you can't have that in every single things we have, and we should be cautious, of any type of tools that we might be using. So I should be moving to maybe another survey, to get you active a little bit. I keep seeing Cassius and Joanna sending me comments and questions. That's great. I need to get everybody involved, so let's look into a survey. So here you can choose more than one option. This is about trying to look at the driver that will be having the biggest impact on the purchasing organization in your company. Is it about trade and global footprint? Is it about innovation, digitalization, Internet of Things, sustainability? So I can see more and more answers coming in. Bring them on, bring them on. That's great. Oh yeah, more, more. Ooh la, I see one of these really winning. Any more? Yeah. Ah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, still a few. Press send, press send. Stabilizing now, I think. Yes. So what do we get? Panther just share the results. Yes, you know, the focus on innovation, 48%. Well, I hope that will be the case. You know, that's a true opportunity we have these days to, bring, value much beyond some of the pure savings. And after, digitalization, sustainability, and the global footprint, which, I think that, yeah, this will be important in terms of adapting to evolutions. But the next 20 years, the challenge are somewhere else, and that's great to see. All of this. So let me finish with a few words, in terms of millennials and business partnering. I think this is something we've seen coming so strong. Um, Changing jobs. 50% of people stay in their job for less than 2 years. Well, that might not be the same in every country, in every company, at every level. But this means that if you're working with, 20, 30, 50 people, a lot of them are going to change job every year. And every time you need to rebuild some of the connection. Hence, the point about things becoming impersonal sometime. And, no, we should be able to, recreate the right connection so we get the right understanding of the needs and we are able to help people implement the right solution, for their case. Company hopping, people change job. They go from one company to other. And the regeneration, because of the growing complexity, due to, the overall systems landscapes, due to the globalization aspects, due to the multiple innovation being pushed here and there. When most of the job could be done, I just do my job. I don't need a team for that. 20 years ago. Well, now these days, or 30, 40 years ago, now these days, 80% of any type of work has got to be team-based, and that's really important in terms of skills. It's really important in terms of us playing a role. Huh? We are one of these functions that span across the organization and span outside of the organization. So we shouldn't be afraid of driving this type of team activities and putting everybody into the right team spirit. But important slow changes, but need to pay attention to this type of things. Millennials, a lot of people say the next generation, it's terrible, it's going to be tough, it's going to be impossible. Well, we should be careful about being so systematic about that. People have educations, people have are working very often part-time. They know what the work life is looking like. A lot of them are very entrepreneurial. They want to start their own company. They want to launch their own activities, but in the meantime, they're happy to work for another company. I think what's very important to pay attention to is things like feedback. These people, they don't just want to have 1, 2, 3 meetings a year, very formal ones. They want constant feedback from their managers. They want feedback from their colleagues. They want to be they want to be given some input in terms of their work, in terms of their behavior and things like that. And they want people who are mentoring them. So that's probably the best advice. We need to build an organization where we welcome some of the new generation who's coming in. We need more, data analysts. We need some people that are going to help us to take things forward. We need to bring people from other functions. So we need to welcome them. We need to adapt our ways of working. So, it's going to be quick for them to set up into our own environment. And I think it's very positive. It's very nice to, get more to this capability of exchanging, feedback and supporting each other. So that's something we should be more looking into. Okay, well, I'm going to be probably moving quickly. The next picture is something I did with a team in terms of, creating with Lego the buyer of future. So you ask some of your business partner, what do you want the buyer to be able to do? So you list 5 traits of personality or 5 skills you want them to have, and you let them build this. And one of the group did that. It was fantastic. You've got like the thumbs up for a positive attitude. You've got the big heart for emotional intelligence. You've got the solid foundations, being able to look from far. So it's a great exercise to get your business partner or your colleagues to draw a picture or build a picture, build a a prototype of the people they want to work with. The world is going to be changing. There will be more opportunities, not just to focus on cost and efficiencies, but also to help with performance differentiation, multidimensional innovation. It's not just about focusing on our category, but helping our company innovate its business processes, transform the core business with the Internet of Things, and maybe in some occasion contribute to create some new revenue streams. The opportunities are here. We have the choice as purchasing. Are we ready to sign them? Are we ready to change, to become more ambidextrous, still working on the saving, on the cost, but at the same time, being able to go out and bringing some new solutions. It's, somehow it's our choice. We need to move in that direction, or we need to stay in our corner. If we go in that direction, this will really change our way of thinking. Some of us will be working on some new technology that will be changing very fast. We'll have to work with the business partner in very agile mode, and like a startup. In some other areas, we'll have to build some strong collaboration. Some of us will work a lot in terms of business partnering, connecting to everybody who's a business partner inside the company, and others, or maybe the week after, we'll go back to a more classic category management. I think the future is about being able to move from one category to another. Sometime working in startup mode with one team somewhere, and coming back and looking how you can standardize some of the and consolidate some of the needs in some parts. A lot of things we could say. We'll have a special webinar on the future of purchasing structures and organization one of these days. And I see some questions. I think that we'll be focusing on that. Yes. Yeah, some people asking for the presentation. We'll be sending this. And yes, price is just the tip of the iceberg. And we need to look at all the opportunities. And I think, there's some great options for the future. I would like to thank you, for joining us today, for listening to this. I hope this is, giving you not just, a better understanding on how you can use some tools in your day-to-day, but also some vision about what could be changing, but also giving you some motivation to take this profession in the next steps to make it more significant, more strategic, more important for the business, because there's many opportunities where we can contribute. Okay, great. There will be more webinars coming in the future. We also have some local workshop in terms of changing the perception of purchasing. Next webinar is 26th of April on IoT, Internet of Things. We also have a meeting for CPOs that will be in Geneva in June. Also interested in MBA programs, interested in some of our training, just look into our website. We were very glad to have you today, and maybe one day, meeting you face to face would be a fantastic opportunity, or in some of our branches, in some of our partners' offices all over the world. Don't forget to rate, to give your feedback on this webinar. There will be a screen popping up just after in an email, I guess, where you'll be asked to give some of your input. It was really a pleasure, to be with all of you from all over the world and to spend some time sharing some views about the future of purchasing. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.